Why do most older people struggle to live past 80? 5 unexpected reasons that quietly shorten life. Have you ever noticed how many older adults begin to fade once they pass the age of 80? People who were still sharp, still active, still full of life in their mid-70s suddenly start slowing down. Their energy dips, their strength changes, and little by little, they become more fragile, more withdrawn, more tired than anyone expected. Most of us chalk it up to genetics or luck, something out of our control, something that just happens when the number 8 turns into the number 80. But the truth is gentler and also more hopeful. What happens after the age of 80 has far less to do with fate and far more to do with a handful of subtle forces shaping the rhythm of our daily lives. Forces so quiet, so ordinary, that most people don't even notice them slipping away. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 surprising reasons, the kind almost nobody mentions, that determine whether someone remains healthy, steady, and mentally alive well into their 80s, or whether they start to decline faster than they expected. These are not the usual suspects like diet or cigarettes or exercise. These run deeper. They are woven into how we live, how we connect, how we move, how we feel, and how we make meaning out of each day. Even people who have lived carefully, who have done everything right, can be quietly pulled downward by these hidden currents. But here is the encouraging part, and it matters at any age. Once you understand these 5 forces, you can do something about them. Whether you're 60, 70, or already in your 80s, you can strengthen these areas and gently shift the way you age, not by making drastic changes, but by paying attention to the small threads that hold your well-being together. So if you've ever wondered why some people remain vibrant long past 80, or if you want to stay strong, purposeful, and mentally sharp for as many years as life gives you, stay with me until the very end of this video, because these 5 quiet, often overlooked reasons may completely change how you understand aging and how you walk through the years ahead. Now, let's begin. First reason: loss of microsocial engagement. One of the earliest and most quietly damaging reasons many older adults begin to decline after the age of 80 is the slow fading of something most people never even notice: microsocial engagement. Those tiny, everyday interactions that used to fill life without any effort at all. I am not talking about deep friendships or big family gatherings. I am talking about the small, ordinary exchanges that quietly wove warmth into your day. The gentle wave to a neighbor sweeping their porch, the playful comment to the cashier at the grocery store, the simple good morning to the mailman passing by. These moments might seem so small that they barely register in your memory, but inside your body, they were doing important work. They were calming your nervous system, keeping the social parts of your brain awake and responsive, strengthening your emotional resilience, and reminding you, quietly but persistently, that you still belonged to the world around you. But after the age of 80, those effortless moments often start to slip away. People stop running errands themselves because ordering online is easier. Conversations become harder to follow when hearing is not what it used to be. A slight wobble in balance makes walking outside feel risky. Cold weather turns into a reason to stay indoors instead of a reason to put on a coat and take a short walk. No one plans for this change. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It simply feels like life becoming simpler. But hidden in that simplicity is a quiet loss of vitality. The human brain is deeply social by design. Even the smallest forms of disconnection, not the dramatic loneliness people often talk about, but the subtle absence of everyday contact, register in the brain as stress. When the brain senses isolation, even mild isolation, it responds in ways most people never see. Inflammation rises, the immune system weakens, memory networks begin to shrink, and mood loses its spark. Over time, a person doesn't just feel older, their entire biology begins to act older. I've met older adults who remained impressively sharp well into their 80s, and they all shared one thing in common: they kept those tiny, steady threads of connection alive. Some walked to the same cafe every morning, not because they needed the coffee, but because the staff knew their name, or because they recognized the same few faces sitting by the window. Those 5 minutes of friendly conversation weren't routine. They were lifeblood. They told the brain, You're still seen. You still belong. You still matter. That message, simple as it sounds, is one of the strongest protectors of longevity, mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall vitality. Micro-social engagement is not trivial. It's nourishment. It's the quiet rhythm that reminds the body it's still part of something alive. And when that rhythm fades away, decline doesn't crash in all at once. It arrives softly, gently, like a whisper you almost miss, until one day you realize that the world feels smaller, and so do you. The second hidden reason many people stop thriving after the age of 80 is something that, at first glance, looks wise: being too careful. It often starts with one small incident, a minor slip on the stairs, a moment of imbalance while stepping off a curb, or even a scare that leaves no injury at all. But that single moment quietly changes the way a person moves through the world. Suddenly, routines shrink. You tell yourself, I'd better stay inside today. Maybe I shouldn't walk that far. I'll skip bending or reaching just to be safe. And the people around you, with the best intentions, agree. They say, don't push yourself. Be careful. Just rest. Resting sounds gentle, even healing. But when taken too far, it slowly becomes decline. The human body is not built to preserve itself through stillness. It's built to stay alive through motion. Every movement you make sends an instruction to your body to keep the muscles strong, to keep the balance systems awake, and to remind the brain that you're still engaged with life. When movement fades, the body begins to forget how to move. The changes don't happen all at once. They start quietly. Core muscles, those deep ones that hold you steady when you stand or walk, weaken first. Then, balance begins to wobble. Steps become shorter, less confident. Fear grows. And as fear grows, movement decreases even more. It's a loop that feeds on itself. And it happens far more often than people realize. I once knew a man named Walter. He was 82 and in good shape for his age. He walked a mile every evening, right after dinner, no matter the weather. One rainy night, he slipped. No broken bones, no bruises, just a scare. But that was enough. The next day, he skipped his walk. Then he skipped again. Within a few weeks, it became a habit. 6 months later, Walter had lost 10 pounds of muscle. His legs felt weak and shaky. He began using his arms to push himself out of chairs. The man who once walked briskly every evening now hesitated to take a few steps without holding on to furniture. Walter didn't stop walking because he was weak. He became weak because he stopped walking. That's the quiet tragedy of overcaution. It feels like protection, but it slowly steals the very strength it's trying to preserve. Staying safe doesn't mean standing still. It means moving wisely. It means walking a little slower, holding on to a railing if you need it, using stable shoes, clearing walkways, or even using a cane with confidence if that helps. True safety is not the absence of movement. It's movement done with care. When you move, you're not just exercising your body, you're sending it a message. I still need you. And the body, remarkably loyal as it is, listens. It responds by staying alive, staying strong, staying alert. Every stretch, every step, every bit of motion says to your muscles, your bones, your heart, and your brain, stay ready, stay with me. So if you've been holding yourself back because you're afraid of what might happen, remember this: being careful is wise, but being still is surrender. Movement, even the smallest kind, is life's way of reminding you that you're still here, still capable, and still needed. Third reason, disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. As we grow older, especially after the age of 80, something subtle but powerful begins to change inside us. The rhythm that tells our body when to wake, when to rest, and how to keep everything in balance. It's called the circadian rhythm, or simply the body's internal clock. And by the time we reach our later years, that clock becomes far more sensitive than most people realize. One of the biggest things that quietly throws this clock off balance is light, or rather, the lack of the right kind of light at the right time. Too little natural light during the day and too much artificial light at night can completely confuse the body's signals. It happens so gradually that most people never notice. You might start napping more during the afternoon, going outside less often, or spending long evenings in front of the television or scrolling through a bright phone screen. It feels harmless, but inside, your body is losing its sense of time. Our brains depend on daylight to set the tone for almost everything: mood, metabolism, immunity, and even how well the brain repairs itself while we sleep. Morning light tells the body, wake up, get moving. Send energy where it's needed. Darkness at night whispers, slow down, rest, and heal. When that natural rhythm is disrupted, the body no longer knows when it's supposed to be alert or when it's supposed to recover. Without clear cues from light, sleep becomes shallow. You might lie in bed for hours, but never reach deep rest. Mornings feel heavy, groggy, and slow to start. Energy fades earlier in the day. Memory feels less sharp and deep inside. Inflammation quietly rises, a sign that your systems are out of sync. There's another piece to this puzzle that's just as important: vitamin D. As we age, our skin produces less of it from sunlight. That means regular exposure to natural light isn't just helpful, it's essential for maintaining strong bones, steady muscles, and a resilient immune system. I once met a woman named Helen, 84 years old, who had been feeling constantly tired. Her diet was good, her medical tests were fine, but she told her doctor she just didn't feel awake anymore. Instead of new medication, her doctor gave her one simple assignment: every morning, sit by a bright window for 20 minutes. And 1 hour before bedtime, turn off all screens and dim the lights. It sounded too simple to matter, but within 2 weeks, something shifted. Helen's sleep deepened, her energy returned, her mood lifted. Even her memory felt clearer. Nothing else in her routine changed, just the light. That's the quiet power of rhythm. When light and darkness fall into harmony again, the body begins to remember how to rest, how to repair, and how to stay awake to life. After 80, a stable sleep rhythm isn't just a comfort, it's survival. It's one of the simplest, most natural ways to help the body feel alive again, without pills, without effort, just by letting light do what it's always done best. Remind us that each day has its time to shine, and each night it's time to heal. Fourth reason: emotional suppression from loss and isolation. By the time most people reach their 80s, they have carried more loss than they've ever spoken about out loud. A beloved spouse who once shared every sunrise and every routine. A brother or sister who knew them from childhood. A lifelong friend who could finish their sentences. And for some, even the unimaginable, the loss of a child. Yet what often brings decline after 80 isn't the grief itself. Grief, in its raw and honest form, is part of love. What truly wears a person down is unexpressed grief, the quiet habit of swallowing pain because you don't want to burden anyone, or because those around you assume you've adjusted and moved on. The truth is, the body never forgets what the heart refuses to release. That unspoken pain doesn't disappear. It settles in. It hides in the stiffness of your shoulders, the shallowness of your breathing, the restlessness of your sleep. It shows up in your appetite, your posture, your energy. It softens your spark, dismisses your light, and makes the world feel a little heavier than it used to. I once knew a man named George, 86 years old, who had lost his wife of 60 years. He never cried, never spoke much about it. When people asked, he'd simply say, "I'm fine." But within a year, something in him changed. He stopped going to the senior center where he used to play cards. He lost weight. Nights became long and sleepless. His doctor found nothing physically wrong. The problem wasn't in his body. It was in the weight of what he had never allowed himself to feel. That's the hidden danger of emotional suppression. When the heart doesn't have a place to breathe, it starts to close in on itself. And when that happens, the whole body follows. People who live long, not just in years, but in spirit, are rarely those who never cry or never falter. They are the ones who let their hearts exhale. They talk, they write, they pray, they sing, They share their sorrow instead of hiding it. Some find peace in a quiet conversation with a trusted friend. Others find it in a journal, in faith, in community, or even with a counselor who helps them give shape to what has been silently carried for too long. Because what we allow to be expressed can be transformed. What we bury only festers. Grief is not weakness. It's love with nowhere to go. And giving that love a place to breathe again through words, through tears, through connection, is one of the most healing gifts you can offer yourself. So if you've been holding something in, not because you want to, but because you didn't know where to put it, maybe this is your reminder. Your heart deserves space to breathe. And when you let it, you'll find that life, even after loss, still has a pulse, still has warmth, still has meaning. Fifth reason, gradual loss of daily purpose. One of the most invisible reasons people begin to fade after the age of 80 is the slow loss of daily purpose, not the grand, philosophical kind of purpose that fills books or speeches, but the simple kind. The kind that gives shape and rhythm to ordinary days. It's the reason you get out of bed in the morning. The little tasks that remind you that the day is yours to live. It might be watering a plant before the sun gets too warm, feeding a cat that waits by the door, writing a short note to a granddaughter, preparing a simple meal, or fixing something small around the house that needs attention. When those quiet routines begin to disappear, something inside starts to loosen. The hours blur together. Mornings slip into evenings. One day feels just like the next, and motivation slowly dissolves without ever announcing it's gone. The body listens to the mind, and when the mind no longer has a reason to rise, the body begins to slow down too. Appetite wanes, energy drops, and even the spark behind the eyes starts to dim. But those who continue to live fully and vibrantly past 80 almost always have something small anchoring their days. I once met a woman named Ruth, 88 years old, who radiated a calm, joyful energy. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't in perfect health. But she had reasons to care. Small ones, steady ones, beautiful in their simplicity. Every Monday, she wrote postcards to homebound members of her church, just a few kind words to remind them they were remembered. Every Thursday, she made soup and froze a few containers for the local shelter. And every afternoon, at exactly 4 o'clock, she sat by her window to wave at the neighborhood children walking home from school. They waved back, smiling. And it became a ritual both sides looked forward to. Tiny acts, hardly noticeable to anyone passing by, but for Ruth, they gave each day structure, rhythm, and meaning. Her life still had movement. It still had direction, and her body responded to that sense of purpose like a plant turning toward light. Purpose doesn't need to be grand to matter. It just needs to be alive. When you have something to care about, something that depends on you, even something small, your body hears that message loud and clear. Keep going. You're still needed. And that message, repeated day after day, is what keeps both the heart and the spirit awake long after 80, and long after the world has grown quiet around you. Most people don't fade after the age of 80 because of one single event. It's rarely a sudden fall, a diagnosis, or a single bad day that changes everything. More often, it's something much quieter, a series of small, gradual shifts that unfold over time. A bit less movement, a few fewer conversations, a loss of rhythm, a loss of purpose. They seem harmless on their own, but together over the years, they gently pull the light out of daily life. But here's the hopeful truth. The same way decline happens slowly, recovery can happen slowly too. One gentle step at a time. You don't have to transform your life overnight. You just have to begin. One short walk outside. One honest conversation that lets you feel connected again. One moment of genuine emotion you allow yourself to express. One quiet morning spent in sunlight. One small task that gives your day meaning. Every single one of those moments tells your body and your spirit, I'm still here. I still matter. And that message, repeated little by little, has the power to turn everything around. So ask yourself, which of these 5 reasons spoke to you the most? Which one surprised you? Which one felt uncomfortably familiar? And most importantly, which one are you ready to strengthen, even in the smallest way, starting today? You can't stop aging, and you shouldn't want to. Aging is not the end of vitality. It's the deepening of it. But you can shape the way you age. You can choose to protect your natural rhythms, to keep moving, to keep connecting, to keep feeling, and to keep finding purpose. Because when you do, reaching 80 isn't the beginning of decline. It's the beginning of a new kind of depth, a quieter, wiser, more meaningful strength that carries you forward. Thank you for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Share one insight or reflection you're taking away from this video, and tell us how you plan to bring it into your life. If you found this message meaningful, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next conversation here on Elderly Heart Talks. We appreciate you deeply, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.